counter pick?
Oh, I guess we're about to find out. We're loading back into picks and bans, so I think we can correctly predict the first ban phase. No problem.
I didn't write it down the first time.
Ah, there you go.
At least, Jin.
It's all for you, Stress.
You've got it. Fiora. Yeah. And Fiora was the one that I was a little skeptical about because I was expecting not to see Camille on the other side of you banning out Fiora, but Camille had already been banned. That was the second ban for ROCCAT. Kha'Zix was the last.
And it's LeBlanc.
So it is LeBlanc.
So it leaves Rise up and available if Betsy wants to play it. They have a few more picks to make it happen.
Yeah, they don't need to pick it here. The Ashe could come out from ROCCAT if they feel like Hyanan was playing that. But they are going to maintain the Rise pick. Fairly confident in it.
And a Rek'Sai locked in for Maxler. Okay, let's see what he's able to do on that champion. Last time around, the Lee Sin was able to track trick around the map for a while, and with the Kha'Zix locked down now, let's see what G2 are going to go and answer with. It might be their bot lane. The Zyra and the Ashe are both up.
Yeah, if they wanted it here, of course, they were the team that banned Jhin in ban phase 1. So very, very well may opt towards the AD carry. It would make sense within that. Would kind of force ROCCAT to pick the Varus in the last pick of phase 1. Otherwise, you have to anticipate that G2 will ban it out. ROCCAT likely to turn their attention in ban phase 2 now towards the jungle and top. That is the roles we're still expecting out of G2.
All right, ROCCAT back, ball in their court. Do they lock the Varus here? Do they look for something different?
If they
don't worry about support.
If they don't ban Varus here, it's highly likely G2. Oh, if they don't pick it, it's highly likely G2 will ban it. ROCCAT fairly likely to throw another ban Trick's way as we enter phase 2. So what is left? Rek'Sai's gone. Camille not available, Kha'Zix not available, Rengar not available, Elise not available either. High priority on the jungle champion pool right now. It's top lane we're going to.
So the Maokai's banned away, but G2 still have the option. Once we get out of here, of course, ROCCAT would have the option first to pick up the Rumble.
So for supports, Misfortune likely to be banned away here in phase 2 by G2. As ROCCAT are still searching for their support. High damage poke lane from Misfortune and Varus. For ROCCAT, we saw a Poppy ban against them in the first champion select, but it's Jace that gets taken away. Seen that taken away in just about every single game so far. Will the Malzahar find himself on the ban list? No. He is available for ROCCAT.
The Karma banned a pair of supports, but not the Malzahar, and ROCCAT get the ball back in their court. Do they want to grab the Malzahar? They don't need to do it on this rotation because support for G2 is already picked up.
The other option would be Tahm Kench if they want it, or something like a Taric that is a tank that is able to keep Hyanan alive. That would be first phase 2 lock-in for ROCCAT. Putting us in a spot, what is left in the jungle for Trick? Because there have been a lot of bans come out.
Well, there's the Lee Sin available for him.
Wonder whether he'll go to something a little more old school like the Graves.
I was gonna say, on the tip of my tongue. The Graves is definitely in his wheelhouse.
He hasn't been much of a Zac player or anything like that,
no.
so Trick, we're gonna have to take a little bit more time to find out what he wants out of the jungle.
All right, so the blind pick Shen.
Hey, maybe I'll want Shaco.
There we go. It was all part of the plan. We'll see. I mean, they've got 20 seconds left to lock it, but they got the Shen available, so that gives even more protection to the Ashe. Also, you can do some fun little LeBlanc submarine plays.
Yeah, lots of plays available. 10 seconds left on the countdown for G2.
They're really taking their time in this one, that's for sure. All right, the Lee Sin, I think that makes the most sense. It's really conventional. You know, it's going to have a bit more survivability than the Graves does, and you know, you can kind of help set up your early lane all across the map.
Which leaves us with Faxi maybe looking for a Rumble up in the top side or another tank.
Shaco hover. Well, there is a Gangplank and it's locked.
It's an old counter to Shen. Well, counter in air quotes. It does very well. You're able to push back waves very quickly, deny Shen's ability to push. You have similar global presence against the Shen with the ultimate that you can use. So Faxi looking for a little bit of a later game scaler, as has Betsy picked up for himself in this game. So a lot rides on the bottom lane of ROCCAT early on.
It's the bottom lane that still has quite a lot to prove. Yarnan coming back in, and after a whole summer spent not playing the LCS, picked up by ROCCAT and joined by a brand new support, what did who said he really wants to play against Mithy. Well, he's got one game under his belt, and let's see if he can hang tough once again. The laning phase definitely wasn't their problem last time around. Curious to see if Trick makes a lot of visits down there. I don't think they'll be able to track him quite as easily as they did on the Kazakhs.
And we're going to get to see how it can do when the shoe's on the other foot. It's Zyra against Tom Kench, but flipped. So ROCCAT clearly trying to use as much global presence as they can up against G2. Almost everybody on this lineup has some sort of global play, or at least high mobility, like a rise to get yourself across the map.
That's globals on both sides. I mean, you got the Shen, you got double TP with LeBlanc. Oh, it's going to be some real crazy 1v1s that turn into 5v5s real fast. All right, I cannot wait to see how this one shakes out. And for you guys at home, and of course here in the studio, if you think G2 is going to waltz away with the 2-0, don't forget, keep on tweeting, hashtag G2 win. Or if you believe in ROCCAT and the power of the comeback, hashtag ROC win. The lights go down. The rift goes up.
I really thought you were going to go with see if they can G2 step their way to a series
I'm not that
win.
punny today, all right, Stress? You're going to have to wait till next week. We're walking on to the rift.
A lot of people at home just muted. Just off that interaction alone.
And they would not, they're not going to hear what's going to happen next. All right, so looking at the start out of here, I want to see what MaxLord does up against Trick this time around. Last time he really had his number in the early game. It didn't end up mattering, as it all came down to that win, but still. MaxLord has a lot of mobility. He's a much tankier champion. Let's see what he can make do. Bringing 3 into this brush.
I feel like MaxLord on Rex side, that's the type of champion we've seen him have the most success on. Trick wants to go aggressive.
I got this, guys.
There's no real way of him dying at that point. But we've seen MaxLord have a lot of success on this Rex side. It's able to control a lot more, I feel, than when he's playing a lot of other champions.
Yeah. Wow.
That's some good base.
Yeah, no kidding. 6 start to this game. Okay. Take a look at our Keystone Masteries, of course. Speaking of tankiness, you know, between MaxLord and Betsy, they're going to have quite a lot to bear, but there's also Wadid. We have a pause to start the game off. Don't tell me it's another mouse issue.
I don't know. Betsy's kind of shaking his head at his screen.
Okay. Well, we'll see in a minute.
Either that or he wasn't a fan of the music.
I suppose it's always possible.
Gonna need to get Battlecast Cho'Gath in here. He's got the real sound system that comes with him.
Yeah. Way to bump the skins this game. All right, so we're taking a look for ROCCAT to see what they're going to be able to do. You're definitely going. I think you're going above and beyond, man. But I want to bring it back to your point about MaxLord because yeah, Rek'Sai was definitely one of the champions he was picking up quite a lot. Obviously, he and everybody else were playing pretty much all the Gragas, so it's still kind of in that realm of like it's this tanky, engagey kind of jungler that's not really going to do all the damage, but it's definitely going to be able to get you in and out of those fights. And when you have so many globals to bear, I think ROCCAT's composition this game definitely has some serious power, especially late. I mean, you look at the Gangplank, you look at the Rise. This could get scary if he gets to another 38-minute game.
Yeah, as you're talking about that tanky kind of damage style that you can get for MaxLord, seems to be the best kind of midpoint for him as a player. It allows him also to have a lot of impact in the games, be heavily favoring a particular lane, and honestly on ROCCAT it looks like this has become the start of a bit of a heavy mid-focused relationship for MaxLord and the rest of ROCCAT. In game 1, 30% jungle proximity between MaxLord and Betsy. That is a significant amount of time spent together.
That fits into the definition of camped, I believe.
Yeah.
But this time around, Betsy's going to have a bigger impact because that Taliyah honestly did not do a whole lot.
It didn't, but keep in mind a lot of that time was also spent in the enemy jungle, in the river, trying to get vision control. So
sure, they roam together.
It was less so much of like camping in the lane, more of just kind of buddy systeming together and trying to just go wherever on the map to try and deny Trick, try and deny Perks as much as they could. So we'll keep an eye on that this game, see how much priority Betsy ends up getting from MaxLord. He is likely to kind of get shoved in a little bit by Perks from time to time, but we know Rise is very, very good at clearing waves himself, good at pushing back, and of course has that Realm Warp to come lane to lane very quickly.
Well, we've had some rises into LeBlanc, and this is a solid matchup here, and we'll see if Betsy can hang toe-to-toe with Perks, who, coming off, frankly, one of the best games we've seen out of him in some time. It has been a long offseason, but all the same. We'll see how he does. Sven and Mithy pushing on this bottom side, sends out the hawk shot, will spot Maxlor moving through his jungle, and they can ping that one out right now as Mithy goes to place an advanced ward. You can also see Trick hanging around. Could be gunning for Maxlor's blue buff.
Turnabout's fair play. This is exactly what they tried to do against Trick in the last game. Ward goes down. Maxlor knows he's in trouble if he sticks around. His smite was not quite available yet. He's trying to get it just mere seconds.
He secures it, but he needed the help of Wadid to do it. Now Trick's gonna flash away, and Mithy is caught. Betsy is here. The flashes, the fails. No! They don't have enough, and Wadid's gonna have to eat up Betsy. A couple of misfires there to start this game off.
A lot of summoners used their 2 flashes on the side of ROCCAT, a flash and a second one by G2. It looked to have been a lot easier for Trick, but did not quite get the steal off.
Yeah, we'll check back in top lane now that the action's over. You know, this is what you talked about. That Foxy, I think it's a little bit later in the game that he's going to have more impact once he has barrels, which he should now.
Yeah.
There we go. Said a little bit later, it's soon now.
Well, it's not even right now. His barrels don't do enough. Expect is not threatened by that. Typically, it's only once you've got like Sheen and Phage or a completed Trinity Force that your barrels actually start doing too much. So Expect still has to... Well, no, Expect can do whatever he wants in the top lane for now.
Yep. Okay, Trick is coming in.
Lane.
Oh, nice. As the
Betsy.
chain's connected, Betsy's forced to flash and ghost away. Oh, boy. All right. So Perkz is getting some help from Trick this time around. We were wondering if that was going to be the case, and it is.
And the
big
problem,
farm advantage.
The problem here is Betsy now with no summoners is over nearly 2 waves down in CS. Oh, and this is a big stack. So Betsy doesn't want to have to recall out early, doesn't want to have to go back and miss this big stack of experience. So he's going to stay in lane. And look who's coming around the side, Trick. Now, this is not so much about killing Betsy right now as it is about denying him as much as he can. Unfortunately, Betsy will be able to step forward. You can see he gets experience from the cannon minion and hits level 4, but Trick wasn't about to go diving when they knew Maxlor was around.
Yeah, he keeps getting hit by the coconut, but Maxlor, he's pretty much been locked up in his base, and now Trick's like, all right, if you're not going to be in your own jungle, I'll do it for you.
Yeah. Maxlor doesn't have time to farm out his own jungle while helping Betsy, but you can see Trick is fairly low, but look, there's the increased health, or at least the regeneration from the smite coming down. You think Trick's in trouble, smites it away, suddenly gets like 300 health back at that point.
Nah, he's fine. Maxlor is, though, like we talked about jungle proximity in the last game, he is actually just sitting in this lane right now.
Yeah, this is not so much proximity.
Oh, okay, hold on. Perkz has to distort back. That was a close call there for the G2 mid laner.
Bit of a proximity mine there as Maxlor unburrows, catches Perkz out, will force him back. But Perkz has teleport, so again, this is a little risky out by Perkz, but they know that Maxlor alone can't really contend with Mithy and Perkz in the mid lane. So they're going to, again, try and deny as much of this CS on Betsy as they can. 42 to 27. Maxlor does not have his flash available. Normally you'd see a flash unburrow there. Doesn't have it, as Perkz was out of mana himself, so would have burned flash for flash, but Maxlor ultimately would have died if he had gone aggressive there.
Yeah, really nice from Sven to actually keep this perfectly happy to just absorb the wave as you saw the roam out from Mithy up towards the mid lane. And is dead even on farm, dead even on gold. Start this game off. A teleport now burned by Expect to come back as Foxy had already used his earlier. You know, not for a lack of trying though. This is not the quiet early game that we saw last time around. It has been a lot of action. Unfortunately, neither team is showing any kills for it just yet.
Yeah, no real kills to speak of. A lot of summoners used though.
Just delays the action.
It does. It delays the action. And we have a bit of a different build coming out for Hyanan on this Varus. I'll speak a little more about it as we get closer, but a build towards a Cutlass signifies Blade of the Ruined King. A couple of people have done that. We saw Prey do it the other day in LCK. But generally has been a lot more towards the Essence Reaver. We've been seeing the Ghost Blade a little bit when it's not so much been about that upfront damage, but
play the hit the barrel first game. That's what Expect's trying to do. Yeah, I really wanted to ask you about that. With the Blade of the Ruined King start, do you think this is an adaptation to just try to, like, you know, kite out a little bit from Perkz, or, you know, possibly out of Sven for the team fight phase of this game?
I'm not so sure there's too much kiting you can do away from a LeBlanc if she gets fed.
That's a good point.
I mean, against the likes of Expect and Trick, maybe looking to try and kite back, get a little bit of that percent shred off as well. And as I said, we have seen a couple of people do it. Prey did it the other day. He also went Phantom Dance, which ended up being fairly defensive. A lot more about kind of surviving when people try and jump on you than it is about poking down from a distance.
Well, that does fit in with what this comp is looking like it wants to do, right? You talk about scaling on the ROCCAT side, and they have the Gangplank, they have the Rise. I mean, surviving does kind of seem to be the name of the game for this early start, as Wadid takes a little bit of poke damage out of Mithy, and Sven is trying to hang firm. I mean, so far so good. 8 minutes and no first blood. Like I said, not for lack of trying on both sides, though.
Yeah, there's been a little skirmish here and there on the bot side. So for ROCCAT, I need to get Betsy a little bit easier through this. But you can see Rise does have a fair amount of damage still. Only has a tier, but still is able to take half of the LeBlanc's health. Yep.
Perkz needs a little bit more to do some damage. He's just sitting on the Lost Chapter Trick, and Perkz will look to try and contest that blue buff. It wanders a pixel too far from the Coconut, and MaxLore's not falling for that one again.
Yep.
They do spot, of course, that he's doing it, and they are going to spot Betsy being having it handed to him, I should say.
Yeah, this time MaxLore doesn't get caught out on the blue. Didn't turn into a 3v3 fight again, but still Betsy is down 20 CS. And now Perkz constantly going to shove him back out, try and roam. Perkz wants to go up to the top side here. We'll see whether he uses his Mimic to try and fake pressure elsewhere. He's on a ward now, though.
Foxy thinks he can get the better of him. He throws down the cannon barrage. Expect is going to turn and tag in. Perkz the flash forward, and that's first blood for Perkz. Expect with a bait.
Yeah, at that point, Expect just held the fight for long enough. Faxi was too far pushed up, could not survive, and they're trying to shut down this Gangplank before he can get going. However, look, he was well farmed enough to get 2/3 of that Trinity Force completed already, so will start having a bit of presence when it's just him and Expect in the lane.
Yes, indeed. So the first kill of the game goes Perkz' way once again, and ROCCAT had to be having flashbacks to the last in their eyes right now. You cannot allow that LeBlanc to get fed in the hands of Perkz. Let's see if they can deny him any further. Dragon has not been looked at just yet, although the plant from Zyra is going to pop it out of its hidey hole for just a moment. Still, going to take a while before anyone's going to be able to pick that one up. ROCCAT definitely want the Mountain Drake as much as G2 do, and Betsy going to be thrown down a ward, make sure he's not going to get ganked anytime soon as he heads back to mid.
And again, Perkz with the fairly early Mercury treads, same principle as in game one. You just substitute the Ashe for the Varus as soon as Perkz is trying to go aggressive, get some of that tenacity. Obviously against the likes of the Tahm Kench stun, the Rise as well. High amount of damage, high amount of crowd control. Don't want to get caught out. We saw Perkz once in game one go aggressive over the wall, get picked off, and he really got punished for it.
It took a lot of CC to do it, though. And this time around, I mean, they've still got some. I do like that Betsy is on a champion that, you know, you just get a couple of items and you're going to be able to dish a lot of damage. Trick has started up this Mountain Drake, done most of it on his own, to be honest, and they should be able to secure that one up, no problem. Wadid arrives just in time to see it wave goodbye. So G2 at 10 minutes are able to sneak away a Dragon, while MaxLore on the opposite side of the map was busy clearing away Scuttle Vision. MaxLore heading into the enemy jungle here, as he'll be able to get a little bit more vision and a few camps countered for himself. It's consolation prize, but it's something. Foxy and Expect continue to duke it out. Oranges to stop the taunt. Let's talk about MaxLore for a minute. Something we talked about how he's been, or how he's expected to be this cornerstone for the team. He had a really breakout split on Giants last year, but what does he need to really do to keep ROCCAT in this game, to keep them surviving up until they're a much more powerful team, as Foxy and Expect are going to have no more of that for now?
I mean, you got to just to stop on Expect and Faxi there. 2 times Faxi tried to place the barrel down Expect, flawlessly weaving out the autos to kill the barrel. Wadid, however, caught out.
Wadid's got the gray health. He has to flash away nonetheless. Back down to mid. Perkz is going to be bringing Expect, and MaxLore getting kicked back into tower range and taken down. Trick with the kill secure. And that's all about those globals.
MaxLore trying to just get himself into the fight, trying to take out Perkz, and G2 easily swat away any attempt that ROCCAT have. I mean, it may not look particularly difficult, but, you know, knowing exactly how you've got to take each trade, expecting the top lane trading well with Faxi, then the bottom side trade Sven and Mithy go aggressive, burn a lot from Wadid, and then mid lane, already they're planning how the globals can come out. You can see Perkz goes aggressive. At this point, has to kind of be ready to react. It was pretty much a Shen's shield that ends up saving him. You can see how low Perkz ends up dropping, and Maxlor couldn't survive with Trick and Expect there to punish him.
Yeah, just didn't have the damage out, and you know, Maxlor was a nice flash on Barrow to try to get that knockup, try to make the damage happen, but not going to be enough. And this time Perkz is also ready for the second attempt at the gank. Has no flash, but he's able to distort just fine away from the Rek'Sai. So Maxlor really committing a lot of time and energy to this mid lane, but it is yet to yield the results he wants.
Maxlor didn't check the crush. That control ward's been there for quite a while.
That has been sitting there close to the whole game. Now Trick is going to get spotted on that one, and
you can see Faxi was already backing away. No ultimate available to cut the wave, so it means there's damage done to this top tower. It's still fairly healthy, though, so it's not like the tower is about to fall.
But these are all advantages for G2 right now. Like, they're starting to pull away a little bit in the gold game. They got that early Mountain Dragon, which is pretty important to start knocking down towers. And they're getting map control, which is going to be really important later on.
From the mid lane priority, up comes Perkz. He's able to shove out now to the top lane.
Cut him off. Foxy. Oh, Expect is following in. And Trick gets the kill. They're onto Maxlor, the chains and everything, but they don't want to follow too deep, so they still pick one up.
Gets the kill with the kick. Now it's going to be the tower under pressure. And, you know, Betsy, again, the second game in a row, he's on a mid laner that has ability to roam elsewhere and is second to the lane. Perkz has been there first every single time, and it's very difficult to deal with because Betsy's always trying to play defensively. It's forcing him to miss further CS in the mid lane or not be there, and the rest of his team get 3v2'd. It's difficult to keep up.
So take a look at how Perkz made it all happen. Again, the Crux were the ones to spot him, but it was too late at this point.
Yeah, way too late. Perkz already had roamed up to top lane.
Kicks him into him.
Gets the kick. Goal.
Does that count as friendly fire? If you're the ball, I don't know.
Well, there was that change that actually makes it so that, like, the you know, the more health the kick has, you do more damage. I like that one. That was a good change for the bowling ball.
I think Trick likes it too, to be honest. 2-0 on this Lee Sin, so he hasn't had too much trouble having an impact in the early game. Maxlor has really been focusing a lot of his attention on the mid. That top notwithstanding, and it really has been a quiet affair down bot. A slight farm edge for Yarnan, but I mean, they need a hell of a lot more than that to stay relevant this game. They've lost out 2,000 gold, and a decent bit of that is in the first tower blood that G2 secured.
And the thing is, Sven and Mythi have been just pushing in this bot lane. Same thing as mid. And yes, there is a bit of a farm difference, but it also translates into a little bit more tower health damage done from G2. They've got it about 2/3 of the health on ROCCAT's tower remains. But again, it's just all about pushing. Sven and Mythi, they can't kill Hyun and Wadid. They tried to a couple of minutes ago against Wadid. That's why his flash is unavailable. But G2 are just in a good position right now. They're utilizing their pushing lanes to get vision control, roam between towers. And again, this wave pushes up. They clear out the damage on the tower. And the next wave or two is going to be a big, big push. Next cannon wave is likely to be a big push onto that tower to kill it.
Oh boy, Mythi's going to take a piercing arrow. The chains are on. They found Trick, but he's going to be able to safeguard away. Perkz coming around the side. ROCCAT still trying for a catch, but it looks like they're the ones who get caught. It's Maxlor, and Wadid is going to be caught right in the middle of the Stranglethorns. Has to flash away. Trick kicks him. Mythi's going down, but Betsy, even though he got one kill, finds himself with 4 on his tail. Can he get out?
Oh.
No! Perkz finishes the job. 2 for 1.
2 for 1. Betsy had to burn his flash to even get the kill, had to reposition to try and kill Mythi, and it left him only with that ghost still running on himself, and it's going to leave him without a tower now. Faxi didn't TP down to the fight. And again, it's G2 in full control. Nearly 4,000 gold lead for the team, and this is how it all started. They thought they were going to arrow, or thought they were going to catch Mythi with the chains. The arrow ended up coming out in response from the bot side. You can see Sven was already making his way to the fight. Wadid drops low. Betsy ends up 4 versus 1, and look at this, Mythi just playing a little bit of hide and seek around Sven, utilizing his AD carry to try and keep him alive. No warp available.
The last shot before the warp completed.
It looked as though he was disappearing.
Well, he did, but in a different way.
Different kind.
Yeah, so we're 17 minutes into this game, and now it's starting to look a little hairy here. G2 have themselves 3,000 gold advantage. They have the map control on the mid and on the bottom, and they're starting off Infernal Drake, and this should go their way no problem. Real question is, How do ROCCAT come back into this? How do they win this game? What needs to happen?
They need time. Realistically, they've got a gangplank, they've got to rise. If we ever get to the late game, then, I mean, they're going to start 2 or 3 shutting people.
Starting to look like a big if, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Rod of Ages has been completed for Betsy, so he's in an okay spot. But honestly, G2, Perks is on such a roll, him and Trick. They're a 2-man squad. Game 1 was Maxlor and Betsy just stuck at the hip at this point. Perks and Trick are able to just kill anybody they try and engage with at this point.
Yeah, Trick has had a really solid early game, and obviously ROCCAT have not given the same kind of attention to deny him as he's not on the Kha'Zix as he was. Still hasn't stopped him from picking up kills, 3-0 and 1, and he's been everywhere he's needed to be right now across the lanes. Obviously, bottom lane has been, you know, the quieter of the 3, but it really doesn't matter. They've let them kind of be alone, do their thing, and meanwhile, they polish out the mid turret, they take down the top turret, they get a couple kills in the bucket, and now Perks is on a roam, says, wait a minute, I don't want a 1v3.
Yeah, sees 3 people and gets himself all the way out of there, but look at Betsy in the mid lane, now fighting with Expect. Expect doesn't really have MR, but is still able to just sit there against Betsy. They want to go aggressive bot lane.
Oh boy, teleport coming in here, and now they want to turn around. The Ash Arrow gets tanked up by Wadid. He's going to throw the Great Health on and has to sacrifice himself. He knew he wasn't going anywhere. Perk still wants something here, but he can't get too much. Or can he, as the tower is going to fall here. Trick taking a couple Praise Seekers and a Piercing Arrow. Meanwhile, Foxy will finally finish off that top turret and give some much-needed gold to himself. Betsy finds Expect. Doesn't really matter.
Tower for tower trade. Perks is back in the mid lane, so Betsy has to concede and run back away. So overall on the objectives, ROCCAT picked themselves 1 up in exchange for their bot tower, but G2 still fairly far ahead right now. You can see Expect finally will make it back up to the top side to deny the rest of the push from Faxi.
Yeah, and as long as he's spent away from that top tower, Faxi's still only just even with him on farm and only had just been able to finish off that tower. So we're about 20 minutes into this game, still a big lead for G2, and ROCCAT tried for the push down bot, or tried for the kill down bot, and just couldn't do it.
Yeah, they tried to. In came the response from G2. You can see Perks arrives with the Shen, stands United Shield on him as he turns up to the fight. It was denied, however, by Betsy, stunning him in the middle lane, or at least rooting him down, meaning Expect couldn't get through. But it was, I mean, I want to say that the timing and the attempt of the play by ROCCAT had potential, but the execution was pretty rough.
It's been the story of this series, though.
Yeah.
You saw it in game number 1. They had a heavy utility composition. They had all these CC tools from Zyra to Ashe, and just could not make it happen because G2 were that much quicker. They had the TPs. They used them real quick. Like this time, not only do they have double TP, they have Stand United. And they might have a whole lot of globals again, but you know, this is the difference between a team, you know, full of newcomers and team that is new to each other, trying to deal with a well-oiled machine that is G2 Esports.
Yeah, at this point, ROCCAT, you can see them trying to make plays. The shot was, well, it was called down into the bot side to use as many globals as they could to get there, but they've got so many, theoretically, they can always generally have an advantage if they can pick smaller skirmishes. The problem is, as you said, double TP, Stand United, in exchange to 1 TP and then 2 kind of semi-global abilities between Betsy and Widit. Makes it kind of difficult for it to work if they do it when G2 have their TPs available.
Seeing a lot of pings here in this red jungle. Perks and Mythi are looking to try and cut off Yarnan and Wadid right now. And Wadid is not even in area to swallow him up. He finally gets there. Dodges out, and meanwhile, that was a quick solo kill down bottom side. Expect getting soloed out once again by Foxy.
Well, I'm pretty sure we'll have a replay of that. Foxy past the Trinity Force, that's what we were saying. Trinity Force is that point where Expect kind of starts losing some of the ground that he had built. Obviously close to the rest, the Ghost Blade as well for Foxy.
I mean, this is what you're talking about. The Gangplank starts to get a little bit easier to deal into the Shen. And you said ROCCAT needs to have some time bot for them. I mean, Foxy might just be the one to do it right now. He's definitely getting his push on down bottom. He'll keep getting this gold, and with the Trinity Force completed, he's going to be harder and harder for Expect to deal with.
And he's really making a nuisance of himself. Second turret that he's been able to push down now, as long as ROCCAT don't lose too much ground the other side of the map. ROCCAT actually could be starting to build a little bit of a comeback with the momentum. This was how Expect ended up dying, so Faxi gets that movement speed boost. This time, expect the barrels are dying way too quickly, and expect tries to stand United his way out of danger and just stands in the middle of the cannon barrage.
Yeah, that's not how you want to go. All right. So, expect still having a little bit of trouble dealing with ROCCAT's new top lane. Still some question marks on him, but overall G2 are still looking very solid. But ROCCAT have a chance. They have an opening. They just need to secure more of this vision. There's so many places they can go in their own jungle that G2 know all about.
And you can see how difficult it can be now to duel against a Gangplank. Past level 13, when those barrels are at their fastest on the tick down, it's
harder to play the game of kill the barrel.
You can't weave the autos in the barrels like you can early game when they tick very slowly down. Now it becomes a lot more difficult.
All right, Sven, Trick, Mithy, all here in the mid, but Betsy and Maxlor holding strong. These minions aren't too healthy, but they're still marching him into the tower nonetheless. Maxlor holding the line, in comes Expect. Betsy could be in trouble. Arrow's gonna land onto Maxlor, and they collapse. A pincer, just like that. Betsy, Maxlor, Yarn, and Wadid all on the run as Perkz is trying to get an assassination off, but he can't quite do it.
Here comes Faxi from the backside, doesn't connect with the first barrels. Perkz still looking for kills.
Speaking of making a nuisance out of himself, Perkz just keeps on hunting. But they can't quite find it that time around. G2 will have to settle for map pressure. Yeah. It is going to be an Infernal Drake that they're on, though.
Yeah, quick decision out of G2 as soon as they didn't get enough kills from that. Oh, Faxi now trying to trade with Perkz.
Boy.
Dragon does go down. Maxlor, even though he ulted, was not fast enough to get away to the Dragon Pit. That's because of the crisp shot calling of G2. As soon as the fight was not on, they backed themselves away. And ROCCAT, now they're going to try and look for that mid tower.
Well, ROCCAT should be able to do this, but it is just an outer traded for an Infernal. And now Perkz actually makes himself available right in the mid. The Shen Shield comes in.
He's still alive.
Still alive, holds on through it. Expect, though, is in a 1v3. Sven doesn't want to get too close to him right now, and they keep pumping the damage. Blade of the Rune King is going to force him to flash. The Ash Arrow comes in. Wadid is able to tank it up, and Maxlor, he doesn't want to tank too much more. As they're going to back off once again. They cannot secure this
TP's
tower.
Coming through.
Perkz is coming in.
Health.
Oh, there are a lot of low health members right here. Perkz can't land the chains. Expect coming in. ROCCAT have back successfully to tier 2. Meanwhile, look at bottom lane. Faxi's still doing his thing.
Faxi's trying to push on the bot side. He has to recall, though, because he does not have enough vision control. Luckily, it is only Expect coming through, but G2 are going to utilize this time to at least secure vision control around the Baron pit. That's what Mithy's doing right now. Faxi is a little out of health, was trying to just get that movement speed, but look at the damage traded back. Titanic Hydra on Shen. Expect's not the only one here. Here comes Perkz.
Oh, I think we've seen this one before. Faxi, he cannot do a damn thing. Perkz makes it look too easy, and the mid tower surely will fall this time around. Yarden and Betsy are going to take the opportunity to do it. But Splish Push is spoiled when you bring down Perkz to the party. ROCCAT now looking to clear vision out of the Baron pit.
ROCCAT, however, do get a good amount of gold from that tower going down, so they will be able to continue building their comeback in this game. Bot tower did not get taken down from Faxi. Of course, it was only a little bit of damage that was done, but that mid tower fell in their favor. G2 have had full dragon control this game. 2 Infernals and a Mountain, and look at the Mountain Drake work for them. Mid lane, they crush that mid tower and respond with a tower of their own.
Yeah, this time around, the Dragons are definitely the much more devastating variety, and G2 have had the map control this game to take down 2 Infernals. The Mountain, guess what? There's another Infernal coming up. If they get that one, you can't imagine that ROCCAT are going to be able to fight them on even ground.
I mean, you look at it, 301 Lee Sin, 304 LeBlanc. 2 Infernals on top of it, a third would be catastrophic.
There's always scaling, but I mean, there's only so much you can do. Between the Rise and the Gangplank, they will have a lot of damage, a lot of wave clear. But Betsy and Faxi need to make some work happen. Faxi's still on this bottom side, continuing to make his push. But G2 just don't seem to care that much.
No, G2 are in a fairly comfortable position still. I wonder now whether the priority for Wadid changes ever so slightly from Hyanan to Betsy. The later this game goes, the Rise obviously normally can handle himself. But we may very well see it change and be that as long as Betsy stays alive, maybe they can keep the fights going. Keep in mind, Betsy has always been a player that has favored later game scalers, gets caught out on this one.
Goes. Yeah, some damage dealt back onto Trick. He actually had to use that summoner, and you can see they were not hesitant to drop a single thing to keep him alive. The cannon barrage from Foxy comes in almost instantaneously.
Yeah, instantly as a response. But we've seen a lot of Vlad out of Betsy in previous seasons. We've seen a bunch of Rise as well. Played a lot of Swain in the beginning of summer as well when that was popular.
True. Yeah, one of the first to bring it, if I recall correctly.
And actually looked very solid. That was the ROCCAT that we said looked very convincing. But the last time we saw ROCCAT before today was their series in the promotion tournament where we actually were calling them pretty much done and out. Oh, Faxi and Perks.
Oh, Perks, he can just keep on going. The oranges, is it going to be K? I don't know. Expect picking off Faxi, getting himself some revenge. Delivered by Perks, and now they're on bottom tier 2. They're just shredding through it. It's 28 minutes, and we're starting to see that gold creep up again. 50,000 to 46, excuse me. ROCCAT have got to find a way back into this.
And now G2 going to recall for some of their members, swing around over to the Baron pit, clear out the vision control that ROCCAT had, and it's going to look to be the first Baron of the game. G2 may very well attempt it while Faxi is still dead for 22, or they'll look for the bait. We've seen it happen time and time again. Game 1, they did it as well.
All the ultimates available, except for Expect.
Caught one member of ROCCAT out, and were able to continue on for that big fight around Baron.
Well, they know they can bait this one out. Foxy's going to have his teleport up and available, and he will have his ult very short order. However, vision control secured there. Maxlor is going to throw down a ward in the Baron pit, but it is negated by the control ward. So, won't be able to spot too much here. Hold on. Maxlor does not want to face check that one. Infernal's in 50 seconds, too. I mean, there's a lot on the map for G2 right now if they want to take it.
Right now, Expect gearing up on the bottom side. Takes the Rift Scuttler just to keep vision on the bot side, just in case ROCCAT, when that dragon does spawn, try and rush it down. And also deny ROCCAT's ability to maintain vision on G2 in case that Rift Scuttler had gone over to them. But you can see G2 patiently playing this game out.
I think that's the key thing, too. G2 definitely playing the more patient game, realizing, hey, that's fine. We can outmuscle these guys anytime, any day of the week. They proved it in game number 1. They're proving it again here. And for ROCCAT, I mean, it's a hard lesson to take, but I mean, you got to think it's a valuable learning experience. Getting on-stage experience against the best EU has to offer. 2-time champions, G2 eSports.
And we've seen the patient game come from G2 a couple of times in the past. It typically hasn't been their go-to at all times. They've been a little bit more rough around the edges, more about just committing for things.
Speaking of committing
for things.
Oh boy.
ROCCAT, they're going to try and rush it.
Bold strategy.
The Rune King and a Rise here.
It's down to 6,000. Ash Arrow, it's going to hand on Maxlor, but Mithy, look, he's getting the Expect delivered to him. Going to force a couple of flashes. Perks coming around the side. You can see how quick they're sticking together. Thick as you like right now. But the chains are on. Maxlor gets out of range. Baron was down to 4,000, and man, that was close. Brownie points for ROCCAT, trying to make a play happen while the Dragon was going, but they couldn't secure it in time.
Yeah, they tried to. Trick is only there with Mithy. The rest of his team has moved over to mid lane. Expect is going to try and buffer at least some of the damage down from ROCCAT.
See if they can catch him. Expect to get pushed back for just a second. Cannon
Oh,
Brock. They find Sven. Instant QSS into the heel, and he's kiting, but Maxlor says no, not today. Sven says, I think so, and he flashes out. All the summoners, all the actives blown, but ROCCAT, they are running steadily out of options. Expect with the barrel outplay, and he gets a double taunt onto Faxi, onto Maxlor. Sven pushing him back once again, and the rest of ROCCAT, they're looking haywire. What did? It's kicked right into Mithy. Stranglethorn's on. Faxi gets the kill. They've taken down Maxlor. It is a 1-for-1 so far, but Yar is gonna fall. Sven, they found Foxy. They found Betsy. Can they take down the gangplank? He's dodging, but it can't be for much longer here with Trick and Perks and Expect all on his back. He's just trying to buy some time. Betsy's here. Maybe he can find Trick. The damage just enough. No, it isn't. Trick with the outplay. Betsy in a 1v2. If Trick really wants to come in here, it would be a 1v3. But Betsy has just got nothing. And look at Sven. He's on the base. There's the ace. They're going to look for the end.
The G2 are going to end this. A masterclass of a team fight when it comes to micro at the end. The macro game's been great out of G2 this series. 13-3 on the board. G2 going to take this 2-0.
Almost as perfect as you can get. 3 Infernal Dragons, 1 Mountain.
Or not yet.
A huge gold lead, but you're right, it's not over. They couldn't quite end it, but it's nothing but Nexus in that base outside of the side lanes. Let's take a look at that fight one more time.
We were joking about whether Expect would be able to out-duel Faxi in those barrels. Well, he just needed to recalibrate a little before this. Was able to get both of them. Wadid kicked back. Good Stranglethorns from mid. You can see the zone control over this entire fight. Sven had even held his ultimate for a little while longer to connect on that one on Wadid. And then Betsy just doesn't have any damage the later this fight goes. He just didn't seem like he could output anything. You see, he doesn't even kill Trick with the first connection, and now Betsy trying desperately to put things out, doesn't hit the Q, doesn't land it again. Expect he's not getting anything thrown at him for the rest of this, because Expect just is tanky enough that he can survive. And look at the damage from Shen.
That's not what I expected to see, but Expect was in there the whole time.
He's got that Titanic Hydra Sunfire cape.
Yeah, I mean, you know, usually talk about Ryze as having a kind of a machine gun in the late game, but Betsy's appeared to misfire. Let's see what ROCCAT can do here. Baron is already down to half health. Maxlor looking for a desperation steal, but he may not even be able to get there. And Perk's is just going to follow him with Expect. They are not giving any quarter to this team. Baron will go down. G2 secure that one up, and the Ash Arrow goes flying. Does not connect where they wanted to, but ROCCAT still not giving up. Perks takes a heaping helping of damage on the way out, but he's still able to make it. G2 are once again going to walk away with the spoils.
G2 again and again and again are going to use this tank LeBlanc style where they're going in with the Shen ultimate on. Massive shield comes through, and LeBlanc just does not die for pretty much the entire fight. Means survives to the end, 4-0-7, not a death on the board this time. See if that's a curse or not.
I mean, he only had the one last game around. Sven has also done his job perfectly. In that last fight, remember, he had no summoners, he had no QSS because he had just been forced to use all three to get away from ROCCAT. It's good protection from G2, and now Foxy's finding out maybe he could use some more protection himself. Oh, walk away from one, you get kicked into the other.
Faxi was thinking, okay, I'm out. I think I can get away from this. I've got
Suddenly
Flash.
Lee Sin.
I've got oranges, and suddenly there's a jungler there. G2, they're winding this one up, looking for their second inhibitor. The Nexus is exposed, so as soon as they get a minion wave in there, they should be all right.
Oh boy. Yeah, man, I mean, G2 are doing great, but Perks has had yet another monster game. Just hearing he's done 22,000 damage. Doesn't matter what the percentage is, that's a lot.
Sven,
33, excuse me.
do about as much to the tower.
That's even more. Sven's just continually pushing this one away. I mean, ROCCAT have so few opportunities to make anything happen because of not just how far down they are, but because they really, really needed Betsy and Foxy to be doing more. Foxy did quite a lot.
Perks using the Mimic just to push Betsy back. He is in Betsy's head right now. Utilizing that fake LeBlanc.
You learn the mind games. Let's see what they can do here. ROCCAT last desperate hold. Maxlor way too low though. He might be tanky, but not enough. Realm Warp is just going to get popped to push them back. Not even taken. But Maxlor now, where was he doing? Sven's going to take him down, and Perks was on him, but didn't matter. Now Betsy, there's no one else there. Expectant Trick, they just said, forget it. We're on to the Nexus right now, and there's nothing ROCCAT can do. G2 sweep the series.
I think Maxlor thought that Realm Warp had his teammates coming with him. He didn't get the memo. Nobody was taking it, but G2, they're taking the series 2-0. Strong start on week 1 for the reigning EU LCS champions.
They definitely earned this victory. Didn't hardly break a sweat.
Very composed G2, you can see in the huddle, a little bit less excited than we've seen them before, but I think that's a good start. It's week 1 of the split, put up 2 good wins on the board. I think people expected that from them, but certainly to at least have that written in the history books now is a bit of a sigh of relief.
Yeah, I don't think you can really take anything away from their performance. It's kind of what the reigning champions should be doing. You'd have to question a little bit more if they dropped a game here. But for ROCCAT, I mean, it's a rough break. You're up against back-to-back champions, defending champions on day number 1 for you after watching a little bit of them play in their own day 1. But they've got some more winnable games coming up for them in the next couple of weeks. They've got Misfits, they've got Giants.
And it's interesting because you mentioned Misfits and Giants. They had their series yesterday where a lot of people had thought Misfits would come out and be very strong. I think looking at ROCCAT from today, Misfits and Giants from yesterday, I think the three are a lot closer perhaps than we had thought at first. And that makes for a very interesting set of games. And even if you're Fnatic, you've got to kind of be a little worried for how the performance of ROCCAT and Giants, at least at the start of some of these games, has been. ROCCAT game 1 came out fairly strong. I want to see that happen again and again. If they can really build that as a basis, I think ROCCAT could end up taking a series or two from this group stage. I don't think it's going to be from G2, though.
I think so, too. Now, let's head over to the analyst desk after the decisive 2-0 from G2 over ROCCAT.
Thank you very much, guys. Indeed, the reigning champions here in Europe, unfazed by ROCCAT. And when we look at the game, they were dominating as well in game 2. And when I looked at it, I thought LeBlanc, a double TP. They're looking for the same game plan as in game 1 from the side of G2. Is that correct?
It's actually super cool because while it looks on paper very similar, it's actually more of a strategy that ROCCAT was doing in game 1 that G2 was now doing in game 2. Basically, we look at the lanes, we see Ashe Zyra that's auto-pushing the bot lane, we see LeBlanc versus Ryze, which is a skill matchup, we immediately saw Trick visit that lane very often. So it indicates that normally, aside from the Gangplank picks, which we'll get to soon, is that you want to kind of push mid with the LeBlanc, roam down to the bottom lane, and then basically start camping bot with the Shen ulti. But of course, there's a Gangplank in the game, and that kind of changed how things go.
Exactly. The big thing about Gangplank is not only should he have a comfortable matchup into the Shen, but additionally, he has a lot of opportunities to do other things. But we'll take a look at exactly how some of this unfolds.
Yeah, so basically, this is the early game where, before we get to the Gangplank part, is where this is exactly G2's game plan. They identify that the only lane they have to gank or kind of help is Perks. So they don't necessarily need to kill Betsy. Here we saw Betsy being zoned off some CS, some experience. We see Mithy even roaming from this perma-pushing bot lane. Because again, when you push, you give your support the ability to roam. He runs mid, helps Perks push out, get the favorable base. So everything is kind of catered around making sure that Perks is getting ahead of Betsy. Once that happens, Perks is free to roam on the map. Usually he would go bottom for that party that we talked about, but you know, Gangplank has that global.
Once again, the global ult's all too crucial for relieving pressure, for kind of balancing out the global presence on the side of G2 with the double PP. In addition to the Shen ult, we really needed this for the side of ROCCAT for that GP to come out ahead, but we just didn't see it in the laning phase, and I think that made it that much harder for ROCCAT to do anything.
It is because of G2's adaptation, and that's what we see right here. When you can't go bot, you go top. When you play against the global, step 1 is kill the global, so this ultimate gets made in the lane, not in some other lane. And that's what Perks is doing here. So Perks was propelled forward by Trick. Bot lane was always putting pressure due to the nature of Ashe Zyra, and then Trick and Perks together moved to the top lane to shut down Faxi, who was hoping to kind of steal some kills or kind of help his bot lane. But G2 never went bot lane, despite their composition kind of looking as if it could always do that. And that's where G2 is always so smart. They're always playing with an objective in mind. They know what they can do, where their failures might be, whereas ROCCAT was playing as if they're reacting to whatever play G2 was making.
Yeah, which is somewhere you really can't afford to be, and it feels especially bad for Foxy because this is the new GP with the new Trinity Force. If we look back to last summer's season when Trinity Force still had critical chance, you could build multiple Infinity Edges and guarantee late game damage output, but with the new more bruiser-focused build, you take away a multiplier in his damage output, and so you don't really have this late game to fall back on.
And to round it out, I did talk to some of the members of ROCCAT before the match as well, and they also recognized the fact that G2, as we say and as we see here, has a playbook that is completely worked out. So it is about growing throughout the split and not taking too much from this loss specifically.
Exactly. So, for example, for the fans out there, like ROCCAT, when they see this, they realize like this is not like super deep analysis. It's just when G2 says guys are playing around top, every single member on that team now knows, okay, bot lane has to push but play passive because jungle's not coming. They know this is a swing matchup in mid. It's all implied when Perks then says, Trick, come help me. There's no need for communication. It's all kind of done in practice. ROCCAT, they're filling this in. What does this sentence mean exactly within the scope of the game for this player? They're learning the nuances right now.
And also very important, the player of the series in this one is Perks, and he is a player that we are looking at so intently to see if he can make up further in the split internationally, but if he can hold his own and prove that he is the strongest mid possibly in that group.
Yeah, I think the patience coming out from Perks was what really impressed me. He wasn't all about getting these early lane advantages. The team played around him, and he put all of the power that they put into him to good use very consistently. Game 1, very slow for him. He didn't get to have high impact for a long period of time, but he didn't give up kills. He didn't give up pressure. He always played his role very, very well and never felt like he needed to step into like the star carry spotlight, the over-aggressive playmaking style.
And honestly, we saw what we are used to seeing from the first split that Perks played in the LCS, which is all centered around Perks and Trick working together as a unit, getting the lane advantage for Perks that then translated into kind of Trick invading. And we saw a little bit of that centered around the mid lane turret when they were kind of putting Betsy behind his turret. A couple Raptors were stolen, and the bot lane was kind of self-sufficient. like Emperor and Hybrid did back in the day.
Yeah.
Obviously, in summer, they started playing more around Sven and Mythy, but it's good that there's versatility in styles for G2.
Yeah, fantastic from G2. A showcase here and a 2-0 for them. We have one more best of 3 left in this opening week of the 2017 EU LCS Spring Split. And Perks and Mythy will be joining us for H2K versus Splice after the break.